Hey guys, David Franklin here. Listen, I want to tell you about something that is new and exciting that's starting because you're doing such a good job. All across Bartow County, we've seen a real increase in what we would call compassion ministry. That's from feeding to doing evangelistic events, to people sharing their faith, to Read to Grow, all these other stuff. It's really exciting to see how many people across the body of Christ are doing so many things. But what it's done is highlight a huge opportunity because we found we've got a gap. We see these people that are getting led to Christ through various ministries, and it may be through food or it may be through an evangelistic event downtown. And what we're finding is that these people aren't naturally assimilating into our church. And there's some real reasons as we've investigated this. So we're going to start a new, what we call a Four Corners ministry. And this is something that just is for each church to kind of do, just people in the church. But Four Corners, now think about this, okay? We have these people that have come to Christ and they don't naturally assimilate into the church. Why? Well, see if this doesn't make sense. It's because they don't have relationships and they may not have the clothes, they may not have even the knowledge. Like one of our pastors told me the other day, he was talking with an 11-year-old and he told her just to draw the story of David and Goliath, and she looked at him and was like, I've never heard that story. You'll have to help me. I mean, think about that. That's right here in Bartow County. So anyway, we're going to start with this mindset, the Four Corners. No, it's not basketball. It's actually about a guy that was a paralytic in Jesus' day who could not get to Jesus in the traditional way. He couldn't walk himself. And he was stuck on a mat because he was a paralytic. So we had four friends that picked him up, and they tried to get him to Jesus in the traditional way, and that didn't work either. So they had to be creative and think out of the box. So what did they do? They went up on the roof, and they had to work a little extra hard and sweated and did all kind of things that were kind of non-traditional and they hadn't had to do always. And that was they dug a hole in the roof, and they lowered the guy down, and when they put him before Jesus, he was able to get the help that he needed so that he picked up his mat and he walked and he became a fully functioning member of society. Now, guys, I can say this from personal experience because I've been working with some of these folks at School Call with Read to Grow and trying to help them. They just can't walk into church. They've got to have some extra help in some areas, from things like how do you cook poor, or how do you cook wise? How do you shop and make good decisions? How do you manage your money? How do you just go about the business of making wise, good decisions? And so what we want to do is we want to do something that's like this. We'd like to train at least one family from every church in Bartow County that would be willing to kind of sponsor, adopt, be like the big brother or big sister, so that when somebody comes to Christ and they don't have a church home, we can give that name of that person to somebody in one of our churches, whoever lives closest by, whatever church they're closest to, and that way that family can go to their house, go to their place, and start ministering to them and talking with them. It used to be when I was a kid, we used to invite people to come to church. Hey, just come get involved in a Sunday school or a Bible study. But we know that doesn't work today, so what we're doing is we're trying to say, okay, we got to think out of the box. We got to be a little creative. We've got to send somebody to their place and start working with them, building relationship, building trust, because they've got to be at a place relationally to where they trust somebody before they'll ever show up at church. Now that person from your church will train them on just some basic things about how do you connect with these families and how do you start helping them. And guys, you can't train them for everything because it's crazy what sometimes you run into. But as long as they know, look, here's what your role is. You're the one that's going to be kind of their coach, their sponsor, their mentor, whatever you want to call it. You're the one that's going to help them kind of assimilate and build that bridge and assimilate relationally into a church. Guys, I was working with somebody the other day and they called me and they said, look, they told me I could work for 4 days at Goodwill, but they said, I can't because I don't have any khakis. And I said to the guy, I said, you mean you've never shopped at Goodwill before? And there was a guy that was struggling financially that had never been to Goodwill. Y'all, you don't know what you don't know. So what we're doing is on the 16th of April, at the Bartow Baptist Association, and this is across the body of Christ. If you want, or you've got people in your church that would take one family and walk with them over time to help them as they walk with God. I mean, they may have gotten saved under the bridge or something like that. Then we'll train that person from your church on how to walk with them to really help them grow spiritually to become who God's called them to be. And that means we'll teach them how to connect relationally and all kinds of different things, because there's all kinds of levels to poverty. There's financial poverty, but there's relational poverty, there's emotional poverty. And what we want to do is kind of fill in the gap throughout our community of a whole group of people that God is working among in a tremendous way. And our churches are doing great, but we're not seeing as high assimilation rate into our churches. And we think this will help. And so there's a group of us from kind of across the body that are working on this, saying, hey, we can help fill in a gap that will ultimately help these people assimilate in church. Listen, one of the great testimonies, and that I'm finished, one of the great testimonies is a family that was in an extended stay hotel. Husband and wife, they got saved through one of our ministries. And did they start coming to church? Not instantly, but they had to be worked with. And so think 2 years later, they both got jobs. It took 2 years. They got assimilated into the church. Just the other day, they actually had a wedding for this family. Now, they got 4 kids, okay? 4 kids. They had a wedding for them. They're finally getting baptized. These people have both got jobs, and they both have moved out of extended stay into a house, and they now have their own place to live, and they're doing great. But y'all, it's taken 2 years. They just don't naturally, quote, get saved and show up at church. So this is trying to help with one of those gaps. And so if you've got somebody in your church, or if you're one of those people that wants to help in this, listen, just show up on the 16th of April at 7 o'clock at the Bartow Baptist office at 125 Postell Street, and we'll start the training process, but we'll be learning from each other as we do this, as we share with each other all the different things we run into. Listen, I'm telling you, this is New Testament church, and so let's get it done in Bartow County. Thanks for caring.